Hey guys, guess what? I'm still at home recovering. So instead of laying on the bed and doing nothing, why not make a new book and movie video? This week it's a graphic novel to movie about the formative years of none other than America's own contemporary Jack the Ripper, the notorious nutcase Jeffrey Dahmer. It's called My Friend Dahmer. It is a well drawn and well drawn out graphic novel detailing the high school years of the Milwaukee cannibal through the eyes of Derf Backderf, say that 3 times fast, who, as a young man himself, was probably the only one to ever give Dahmer the time of day, even include him in his small circle. But as we explore this one, I'm going to paraphrase my favorite Game of Thrones villain. If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. All right. The book starts with something we know nothing good could possibly come from. This kid likes to melt roadkill in jars of acid, and the neighborhood kids generally frown upon that. The movie starts with 3 things we know nothing good can come from. First, a distant observation of Dahmer by Backderf as a hopeless and sad loner. Then on the school bus, obsessively ogling the man out jogging, and then submerging the roadkill in a jar of acid to the incredulity of the neighborhood boys, which quickly turns to horror as he exposes a less recent specimen from its jar. Going forward, the graphic novel and the movie are a pretty close match. There's a day in the life at the Dahmer homestead where the parents fight constantly and over everything, mostly because Mother Dahmer is a selfish and histrionic drama queen, and Jeffrey's younger brother Dave is her obvious favorite, and his father greets him with a lot of criticism and disapproval. Hard to see anything good coming from this. Then we get back to school where Jeffrey is nicknamed Dumber and generally treated like trash by the football players and prom queens. But all that changes when Jeffrey's mockery of the designer who has cerebral palsy gets him a lot of laughs. And our protagonist warms to him and invites him to their small circle as more of a dancing bear than a friend. They have him performing in the school hallway, at the grocery store, the mall, the library, and sneaking into yearbook pictures that he has nothing to do with. And also, while on a field trip to the nation's capital, Dahmer gives his performance of a lifetime by finagling a meet and greet with the sitting vice president. The only thing in the movie that is only in the movie is when they visit a former prom queen while pretending to be high school journalists and ask questions meant to insult her. But behind it all, in both the book and the movie, Jeffrey is crumbling and numbing himself with alcohol. It may not have been known to Backderf at the time, but it is made very clear in the book and the show that mostly in the book, that Jeffrey's drinking was to drown his darkest fantasies, lending an insight to what could very well be a sliver of guilt, shame, and humanity over these unthinkable desires. Not long after this, only in the book do Backderf and his small circle start to shun Jeffrey and exclude him. They see him resort to sitting with the lowest level incels and creepers in the lunchroom, and are doubly surprised to see him at the senior prom with a date. And the difference between this prom date from book to movie is that in the book, she's enough grades behind him to be unaware of his social standing, and she herself is not very high on the heap either. But the movie does not, really clarify that or portray her that way. Just before the movie ends, There is a reconnection to the book as they talk college plans and say their goodbyes. And then the movie ends with Jeffrey picking up a hitchhiker who is known to be the last who is known to last be seen alive with him. And the book closes with a phone call made to Backderf some 13 years later from one of, his high school friends, telling him that the serial killer arrested in Milwaukee, having bodies in his refrigerator and in his stomach, was their old friend Jeffrey Dahmer. So now, I am not done yet. I would like to touch on the recent mini-series about Dahmer that everyone's been bouncing off the walls about. The very one with Evan Peters. I do see how My Friend Dahmer, covering his formative years, and the Dahmer miniseries detailing his adulthood, crimes, victims, and death have an almost seamless segue from the former to the latter. Another couple of things I wanted to touch on before I wrap this up is that My Friend Dahmer portrays him through a pitiful, if not sympathetic lens of someone who was set on a terrible course from the get-go. And the miniseries continues this downgrade as Dahmer is portrayed as a doomed screw-up and slave to his urges, but does very well to avoid glorifying him, but glorifies his victims and even glorifies his killer to, kind of a small, insightful degree where it looks like a brief focus on this man as he observes, and we can see the wheels in his head turning. But anyway, this kind of was a, not glorifying him, back to not glorifying him. This was a long time coming, since the Milwaukee Cannibal was the only serial killer, that I know of anyway, to be featured in random dirty jokes. Case in point, what did Jeffrey Dahmer say to Lorena Bobbitt? Are you going to eat that? No. The mini-series glorifies the victims and their families with rich remembrances of the people they were and what they wanted to do with their lives. At the same time, the miniseries says nothing nice about the Dahmer family or the Milwaukee police. It just burns them to the light. And that is all for My Friend Dahmer. As always, please help me keep this channel alive and growing with your likes, comments, shares, subscribes, and visits to my sponsor in the description. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again.